When I lived at home with Papa, he used to tell me his opinion about everything, and so I had the same opinion. If I thought differently, I had to hide it from him, or he wouldn't have liked it. He called me his little doll. He used to play with me, just as I played with my dolls. Then I came to live in your house. You arranged everything to suit your own tastes, and so I came to have the same tastes as yours. Now that I've come to look at it, I've lived here like a pauper, simply from hand to mouth. I've lived by performing tricks for you. You and Papa have committed a grievous sin against me. It's your fault that I've made nothing of my life. A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Well House Exorcism. This is your ghost of a host of the most, Shanna.
It's PukwuPJ.
Hey, Carrie's back.
And so is Penny.
So we have our returning special guests, Carrie and Penny. So we have our paranormal expert, and we have our psychological, I almost want to say psycho, but
I prefer psycho.
Psycho expert. This episode is the second in our series on Lizzie Borden. We are taking a deep look into the past, Victorian ideals and beliefs, societal standards, and the flawed judicial system of the time period. Due to the range of topics, we are once again offering a warning to our most sensitive listeners, as in this episode we will discuss the grisly details of the murders themselves. Please be warned. Our references for this evening are famoustrials.com, Hein Online Blog, Herald News, historycooperative.org, Lizzie Borden Warps and Wefts.com, Oxygen True Crime, nationalreview.com, thetravel.com, wickedlocal.com, and my favorite, Wikipedia. So tonight I would like to start off with a very fantastic poem for you, PJ.
I'm ready.
Okay. Now, this is actually called a doggerel. It was written anonymously during and after the trial of Lizzie Borden.
Like a hot dog roll?
Yes. And it's meant to be sung to the song Tra-la-la Boom Dee. It's important that you know that as I read this.
Okay.
Okay. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Andrew Borden now is dead. Lizzie hit him on the head. Up in heaven he will sing. On the gallows she will swing. Yes, there is a second stanza to that very famous, nursery rhyme, if you will.
Well.
But it's supposed to be sung to Tra-la-la Boom Dee. If you didn't know that, listeners, when I told that to Carrie and Penny, they're like, wait, what?
The more you know.
Yeah, it ruins it.
Exactly.
It's just crazy to think that kids were playing jump rope to this. Like, oh, we killed people, hooray. Of course, I think I have Pocket Full of Posies. I'm
exactly.
Never mind. All right, so let's get right back into it, ladies. Last week, we introduced all the players in our Borden household and the different theories and things happening inside that sad house. So this week, we're going to talk about the weeks leading up to the murder, as well as the murders themselves. Next week, we're going to conclude this series with the trial and later life of Lizzie and Emma. So this will be a 3-part series. We realized that earlier this week. There's just too much to talk about. So my question for you is, what led to the heinous double murder that happened that hot, sultry day? I'm going to keep using that word, PJ. Sultry. Sultry day in early August. Well, we know there are some theories. One of them we talked about was the pigeons. So when we were doing the research, PJ, we realized that there is a lot about the pigeons and we don't know what's actually true.
And a lot of things, because there's all the references say totally different things.
Oh, yeah. Everything is...
It's a mishmash of crazy.
Yeah.
But the pigeons actually make it into the trial.
So it must be true.
There's something important about these darn pigeons. Yeah, we're just not sure what. So what we do know
I'll
is
find out
that...
for next week.
Oh, boy. Are you going to ask ChatGPT?
No, I have my book.
Have your book, okay.
My Borden Bible.
Yes, your Borden Bible. Lowercase b. Anyway, now what is known is that in May of 1892, Andrew killed multiple pigeons in his barn with a hatchet, some say, or with his hands, believing that they were attracting local children to hunt them. Some say that Lizzie had recently built a roost for the pigeons, and it has been commonly recounted that she was upset over his killing of them, though the veracity of this has been disputed in more recent years. It was known that Lizzie was a lover of animals, and she was very upset over her father's selling of the family horse a short time before the killing of the pigeons. So did the pigeon murder cause the final straw to snap for Lizzie? Allegedly, Mr. Borden killed the pigeons as a punishment since they were pets of Lizzie's, but most likely this wasn't true.
They're my friends.
No, they're not, Lizzie.
I love them.
No, you don't. You're going to love them with some stuffing.
No.
Yes, and mashed potatoes.
No.
And onion.
And mutton.
When you said stuffing, I'm thinking taxidermy.
You love them more when they're
Some of my friends have messages on them.
Those are carrier pigeons, but good try. Anyway, rather, the pigeons made a home in the barn with the other livestock and were making a yucky bird mess, as you can imagine, which annoyed Andrew. Also, according to most of the reports, there was no hatchet involved. Rather, Lizzie testified at the trial that while her father did kill them, it wasn't in the manner many people believed, and instead he had wrung their necks.
That makes it so much better.
Well, having grown up
Look,
on a
little
farm.
guys, owls can do it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, pigeons can't. Maybe just this one couldn't.
Let's try another 40 and see what happens.
Let's play Linda Blair.
Aw, you know those like owls that you would put in your garden? I had one and I named her Linda Blair because the owl's head would just
Living on a farm, I have to say that it is easier to wring the necks of these animals, like chickens, because they will run away from you. So you wring the neck and you hold on to the body as it's like flopping. Sorry to our listeners, but that is how you kill a chicken. I actually have one very famous memory of my Aunt Wheezy. That was her nickname for Louise. There was a rooster that was just terrorizing her chickens and her husband. So she's like, you do it again, you're going to be a good chicken pot pie. But it was a gorgeous rooster because she used to raise show chickens, if you can imagine that's a thing, but it is. And so one day, we come up with my Uncle Charlie, and all you see is her like plucking feathers out of this rooster because she's like, nope, he attacked me one more time. I just grabbed him by the neck, swung him around, and whacked him like that.
Oh,
yeah,
my.
because there's a way you whip your hand around and you whip. So she's like, now we're going to have some good chicken pot pie. And Uncle Charlie's just like, sounds good, honey. All right, everyone in the house.
I have a good chicken memory of being in first grade, and we were all at the windows of the school watching the farm across the street butcher chickens and watching.
Were they running around?
Yes, they were.
No.
Oh my.
So overall, although pigeon keeping was a popular hobby in 19th century Fall River, there is no evidence to document that Lizzie ever maintained a loft. During the inquest, Lizzie was questioned about killing animals on the Borden property. Her rather matter-of-fact reply was that her father, quote,
Killed some pigeons in the barn last May or June.
when asked with what, she said,
I don't know. I thought he wrung their necks.
Oh my.
The birds were subsequently brought into the house, presumably in the kitchen, where Lizzie noticed.
All but 3 or 4 had their heads on.
Lizzie, you just sound so beautiful.
Thank you. I'm a soprano.
Lizzie, where did you hide the axe?
There wasn't one.
Good answer.
Good answer. Okay, the fact that the birds were brought into the house makes it apparent that they were likely like a culinary breed. It appears that the Bordens were simply going to enjoy a meal of squab, and the only reason some were missing their heads is because Andrew twisted a little too hard and their heads kind of popped off.
It's like a dandelion.
May I just say, squab is so good. Have you ever
is.
had it?
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Mm.
It's my Cornish game hens too. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, remember that? We made like a Cornish game hen meal that one
I
time?
did.
We
I
should
was
do
very
it again.
proud.
It was
I was
really
very
good.
proud of that. Anyway, so the pigeon story is real-ish. Again, like there's lots of people adding to the stories here and there. We're not sure if they were pets. There's something to kind of promote that they were pets, but they ate them. And even Lizzie herself here told us that they came in with some of their heads off, but it's because he twisted too hard.
Here's the thing also. I know she didn't live up on the hill,
Mm-hmm.
but she was of money, and she was their family was like the richest or one of the richest, right?
Yeah.
Did good little rich girls actually like raise
Rage
raise
kill?
pigeons?
Yes, they
Yeah.
were bored. Yeah. Well, and like
be
if you
bored.
read anything about her, really, she just hung around her house. She picked pears up off from their pear tree. She dabbled.
Yeah.
Walked out to the barn, walked back to the pear tree,
Went to the store down on the corner and
bought some
stole.
ribbons. Yeah, well, kleptomania for fun.
No, the other girls or boys would wrestle with me.
It's because you're very brutish.
What? I'm a lady.
She's a lady.
Whoa,
whoa, whoa.
She's
She's a
big.
lady.
She's brutish. She's not
Hey,
a
I got the door off the hinges again.
lady. This is supposed to be a spooky podcast. Lizzie, I'm missing you away.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so then we went into the property story because according to a lot of, again, this could have everything to do with the murder or nothing. There was a story about some property that was given to either Abby or her family.
There's a podcast we could have made of the miscommunication of trying to figure this out last week, too.
Oh, yeah. There's just so much.
Or a couple days ago.
Yes, we could
Yeah.
have.
So many properties, so much information.
So, coupled with the pigeon story is a story about Andrew gifting a bunch of real estate property over to Abby Borden's family, not Lizzie or Emma. Of course, this pleased the girls. They had spent years, their entire lives in fact, fighting their father's stingy unwillingness to spend money on things like indoor plumbing that even middle-class homes could now afford, and then he just gave away a house to Abby's half-sister. Unfortunately, we could not substantiate this, and even PukwuPJ's ChatGPT could not find the information.
Yep.
So we don't know the full truth. However, PukwuPJ did uncover a novel that helps shed some light on this story. So take it away, PukwuPJ.
Yeah, so there is an author named Len Rebello, and he was a resident of Fall River and was completely obsessed with the Lizzie Borden case.
A little bit.
He went to church with Lizzie's housekeeper, Ellen B. Miller, who was known as Nellie. In her will, she gave all the contents of Nellie's room were hers. So anything Nellie had in her room that she had on the property,
Oh,
she got to keep.
thank you. Thank you, Lizzie.
And Nellie's like, good thing I stole all that jewelry last week.
Yes, yeah.
So he initially, Len, approached Nellie at church one day. And he asked information about Lizzie Borden, because eventually, like, curiosity got the better of him. And so he asked her about Lizzie, and she simply replied, "Leonard, you need to mind your own business." This didn't satisfy him, though, so he started researching for decades. And in 1999, he published a book titled Lizzie Borden, Past and Present, which contains information down to extremely minute details that might be insignificant, but he put them in the book anyways, just in case. Like in a couple of years, maybe someone puts these pieces together. Mm-hmm. One Borden historian named Stephanie Corey calls it the Borden Bible. This book is extremely rare. Last time I checked, it was $345 online. We were able to find a copy cheaper. Hopefully, this guy researched, again, for decades. Yeah. So, to the point where he looked into, jurors and where the jurors went after and all kinds of other things, all these little details. So, anyways, he claims that Lizzie's hatred of Abby began in 1887 when Andrew purchased half of the sister's house on 4th Street and gave it to Abby, which she owned up until the time of her death.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But then, according to other reports, Andrew gifted the girl's grandfather's home to Abby. And that's what infuriated the girls so much, in fact, that he had to rescind this, and then he sold it to the girls. So again, stories get crossed. Regardless, property was given, taken, sold, whatever. Yeah. All the chicks get angry. To make up for the perceived injustice, Emma and Lizzie demanded their father hand over the title to the property that they had lived on with their mother until her death. While there was sure to be fighting within the household over this, Andrew did in fact listen, and the girls got their wish. Their father handed over the deed to the house. They actually bought the property from him using the $1 trick, and then, which is weird, the weeks before the murder, they sold it back to him for $5,000. This is important because it meant the girls were independently wealthy weeks before the murder, and therefore greed could not have been the reason for the murders if Lizzie did in fact do it. Because I did the math. Well, actually, I just Googled it. But $5,000 in their time, and you adjust it for inflation, is about $170,000. So those girls were fine. They would not have murdered their father.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of greed, I read a source where they reasoned why she killed Abby first.
Why is that?
Because if she had killed Andrew first, by his will, everything would go to Abby. Oh. And then when Abby died, everything would go to Abby's family. This way, if Abby's out of the picture, then everything goes to Lizzie and her sister.
Lizzie, is that true?
No, I don't know. I wasn't there. Obviously.
You were there, though.
I was with my friends. The pigeons.
The pigeons. The bears outside.
We're wrestling. The bears are the only ones that'll take me.
And pears are very squishy, so I'm sure you came in.
No, bears.
Oh, bears.
Yeah.
In town.
Yep.
Okay.
I think the doctor gave her too much laudanum.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So after this, the Bordens had a large argument that happened around July 21st, and this drove Emma and Lizzie off to vacation in New Bedford for a time. They didn't stay away long, though, because they returned on July 26th. But it was a few days before the murder, and it's important because Lizzie refuses to go back home to her parents, and she instead stays at a local rooming house. So there was definitely some contention in the family. But to set the scene for the ladies who are taking over, hello, you two, it is...
Hi.
I said you two. Okay, you three. Sorry, Lizzie.
Hi.
She's a lady.
She is brutish. All right. So we have to remember it is super, super hot. It's the end of July, and this was like the hottest summer on record, pretty much. The temperature was so high that actually 90 people died from the extreme heat in Fall River, and most of them were children. So this makes the following conversation about food poisoning incredibly possible.
All right. So one thing is known that leading up to the murder is that the Borden household got very sick with a stomach upset. Some say it was food poisoning, and others say it was straight up poison dosed by Lizzie.
Lizzie, did you do that?
I just made him tea.
Tea? What kind of tea?
Herbal.
Poison tea?
Herbal. They're herbs in the tea.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. So where does this story of poison originate? A local druggist and Abby herself. After eating the bad swordfish, Abby visited their doctor, Dr. Borden, to see if she had been poisoned. And she told him that she was worried someone in the town was out to kill Andrew because of his behavior. She was not poisoned, though, so Dr. Bowen sent her home.
Women.
You better watch yourself. There's three of us around here.
That's what Dr. Bowen was like.
You're hysterical.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
your uterus.
Then on August 3rd, the days before the murder, one witness identified Lizzie Borden as having visited Smith's drugstore in Fall River, where she attempted to purchase a poison, prussic acid, we commonly call cyanide. She explained that she needed the acid to clean a sealskin cape. The druggist refused to sell her prussic acid, though, so Lizzie did not buy any. Using prussic acid to clean furs was a common practice, but buying undiluted forms of acid was illegal without a doctor's note.
And so that's what's actually really important about this, too. Because according to the sources, it wasn't Lizzie who went there to buy it. So it was later conversations said it was most likely a different female, and it was actually the wife of a police officer. And she was sent to go to local drugstores and try to buy it to see if she could catch these guys selling this stuff illegally. Because you had to have a doctor's prescription to buy undiluted acid.
Look, me and the girls went clubbing, got some baby seals, needed to make some capes.
I think you should stop right now, Lizzie. You're going to offend a lot of listeners.
Oh, Lizzie.
So then what happens is this local druggist comes forward during the trial because he really just wants to get 10 seconds of fame. So the idea that she bought poison, definitely not true. Regardless, we know that she was sick, though.
The Borden family was in fact sick in the days leading up to the murder. The most reputable reasons were bad swordfish, mutton, and spoiled milk. Andrew was a known penny pincher, and he would want all the food eaten instead of tossed out. So spoiled swordfish and the mutton could have been the culprit. There were also newspaper articles at the time warning mothers against spoiled milk, as unpasteurized milk was delivered to houses every morning and due to the heat would spoil. This bad milk did actually kill many infants during the heat wave. Sadly, as I mentioned, 90 people died. It could have been the heat sickness and dehydration that led to their symptoms. Overall, though, the Bordens were definitely sick.
Puking everywhere.
That sounds like a fun time. Did they have... Oh, and they didn't have an actual bathroom. They
So,
had to go
yeah.
downstairs and
Be quiet and eat your milk.
I paid good money for that. We're not wasting it.
Why is my milk chewy?
That's just your cereal.
Cottage cheese?
No. I hate milk anyway. So they were running outside pretty much to vomit and whatnot because they only had the one working toilet in the basement. They had chamber pots and stuff too, but...
You still have to go dump those out.
Yeah. All right. So we have the background. We got pigeons, that were not killed. We've got sickness/poisoning. We've got a fight over property. We have Lizzie refusing to go to the house. We have Emma MIA. She didn't come back, so she wasn't a part of this at all. So let's get to the murders. And this is my birthday present to you, I guess, Penny, because your birthday is 2 days before this. So you get to discuss all the murder.
Thank you. You shouldn't have. A murder for my birthday.
Yes, you're welcome. Enjoy all the grisly details.
Just what I always wanted. Let's get to the murders. August 4th began hot and muggy.
Was it sultry?
No.
Dang it.
It's just muggy.
No, that was just me.
It was muggy mutton.
Muggy mutton, yes.
With a sultry Lizzie.
The night before, Lizzie's uncle, John Morse, had arrived to spend the night. He had breakfast the morning of August 4th with Andrew, Abby, Lizzie, and Bridget. Morse then headed into town around 9 a.m. to run errands, planning to return later, while Andrew left for a walk and Abby went to clean upstairs. Because of this, Morse had an airtight alibi. Soon, Abby found Bridget and asked her to clean the house's windows, both inside and out, which seemed like a terrible idea in the heat, but then again, she was Irish, Abby called her Maggie, so it really wasn't surprising she gave her that job.
Womp womp.
Just clean Maggie.
Well, Abby didn't have much else to do besides order the cleaning of her house.
She could clean
And
herself. Oh, yeah, and eat. Oh, Abby.
Throw up at this point.
Bridget first spent some time cleaning up the breakfast dishes in the dining room, then grabbed a brush and pail of water from the cellar and went out to clean the windows. Some time passed, and then around 9:30 a.m., as she was traveling towards the barn, Bridget spotted Lizzie Borden lingering in the back doorway. During interviews, Lizzie told police that she had been puttering around that morning, picking up pears from their tree, ironing handkerchiefs, and looking for iron in the barn for a fishing lure as she was going on a fishing trip the following week. Bridget most likely saw Lizzie puttering around.
Did you like to go fishing, Lizzie?
Just puttering around.
I just use lore because next paragraph we have the word puttering again. Because all these girls are just puttering around. Like, because it's Victorian. And what else are they doing? They're doing nothing else.
Abby, too, had spent the morning puttering around the house, cleaning and putting things right. This included changing the sheets in the guest room for John Morse. As it happened, at some point between the hours of 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., her morning duties were rudely interrupted, and she was murdered inside the guest room on the second floor.
Bom, bom, bom.
How rude.
She's just trying to clean the sheets and putter around.
Did she get the bed done?
You better be careful because you're gonna be cleaning those sheets and that blanket.
Oh.
Lizzie?
No, I'm just puttering.
Okay, good.
You're downstairs ironing. It's known from a forensic standpoint, due to the placement and direction of the blows she took, that she must have first been facing her attacker before collapsing to the floor, where every strike thereafter was directed towards the back of her head. In total, she would suffer 18 whacks. It's known from a psychological standpoint that things got a bit excessive and likely emotionally cathartic for the killer.
Such an understatement. It's a little excessive.
Just a little.
Just a tad.
Tad. Yes.
A bit.
Just a bit. Just puttering around.
Going a little excessive. It's Victorian times. Oh.
One whack for every time you beat me in that hole in golf. Every hole.
God. Well then.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Back in your corner, Lizzie.
Go putter.
I'm not done psychoanalyzing you. The amount of blows shows a lot of pent-up rage. Unfortunately, no one seems to have cared about Abby because while she was the first murdered and was in the house the whole time, she was forgotten upstairs for quite a while and was only discovered hours later.
I do feel bad for Abby. She's just forgotten.
Where's it? Where's dinner? Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Ma'am, I have the windows done. What's next?
No, she must have gone out. Well, that's something else too. Like they were talking, there was a note that she'd received from a friend who was sick, and so they actually just assumed that she had gone to visit her sick friend. But we know that Abby never left the house because she was like over 200 pounds and she stayed at home. So, in any case.
Later, Andrew returned at around 10:30 a.m. This was a little earlier than normal, most likely due to his sickness and the heat. A neighbor saw him walk up the path and saw that he had trouble with the door. When he was unable to make his key work, Bridget had to let him in. At this point, she had come back inside to clean. This moment would prove crucial in the case, as Bridget claims she heard Lizzie upstairs laughing when this door issue occurred.
Oh, it's music in my ears.
If she was upstairs on the second floor, she should have already been aware that Abby had been brutally slaughtered with a hatchet on that floor while Andrew was out. So this adds to the theory that Lizzie is the one who killed them. The entire house was created in the old style where one room opens into the next. But, as many people have proven, if you are not looking for a person in the guest room, you could have easily missed Abby's body because she would have been hidden by the bed, which is proven by Andrew.
Like, even her husband misses her.
Unless he thought she was cleaning under the bed.
Well, she's just sleeping on the floor again. Silly wife.
Help, I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh, they've got the buttons back in. She's stuck.
After finally being able to make his way into the house, Andrew Borden spent a few minutes moving from the dining room where he spoke with Lizzie in low tones. Then he went back up to his bedroom and then back down and into the sitting room to take a nap. Walking upstairs, he should have been able to see Abby's dead body, or at least the pool of blood that was spreading from her body. However, he did not. So again, no one really cared about her.
He like walks to his dresser and slips like, whoop!
Must have been that pigeon I killed.
Maggie didn't dry her mopping.
Yeah, Maggie has to mop better next time. Well, just think about like this too. It's a Victorian house. Like they probably didn't have anything. Like there's no subflooring. The blood has to be dripping down into some room. It's
Wasn't there
raining
carpet?
blood. I don't know, but you think it would like sop through?
I don't know. We don't have subflooring and nothing really drips down when we spill.
I don't know. I just feel like that's a lot of blood.
Yeah.
But there was a...
Well, yeah, if it's that much, I guess, yeah, it does. It would.
But it spreads out pretty far before it congeals, you know?
Yeah.
There was a diagram of the house where there's stairs from the master bedroom downstairs, and then the stairs that go up to Lizzie's, the guest room, and Emma's rooms. So if you use the back stairs...
Fine. I'm just saying that there should have been blood dripping. Like, it would have been raining blood from the ceiling, and everyone's like, do-do-do-do, just puttering around, looking at pears, or whatever we're doing, and ironing handkerchiefs. Oh, there's a blood drop on my handkerchief. How'd that get there?
You watch too many horror movies.
I'm just saying.
Blood is thicker than water.
Badoom ching.
So Andrew settled down for a nap on the sofa, while Bridget went to rest as well in her room. But at around 11:10 a.m., she later said Lizzie called for her, telling her Andrew was killed. He had been attacked while on the couch and struck multiple times with a hatchet. Allegedly.
Yeah.
It may have been an iron.
Mm-hmm. We've decided.
Mm.
His time of death would later be determined to be around 11 a.m. So what about Lizzie and her timeline?
Where were you, Lizzie?
Not ironing. I was making tea.
It's a very nice...
Just buttering around.
Well, don't worry. Penny will tell you where you were.
Lizzie spent some time ironing in the kitchen, as well as sewing and reading a magazine.
It's a vicious lie.
Yes, you were. I saw you.
It's your alibi. Shut up, Lizzie. Don't ruin this for yourself.
Take some more.
I was toy ironing.
There you go.
Sorry. It was someone else's iron that did the killing. Not mine. I had it. Ironing.
Okay, Lizzie.
But now think about that. You're ironing, and now that would have been a very, very hot iron because you had to stick it in the fire. And so it's hot. It's already hot and muggy, and you're ironing, and you're thinking, and you're thinking, and you're ironing, and you're ironing, and you're really mad. And so...
That's what we call her Psycho Penny.
Well,
And it just gets too much, and she could have grabbed the iron and run upstairs and just beaten Abby on the head with it.
So
that would explain not a lot of blood.
Because it cauterized?
But then there would
But
be burns.
Wouldn't they have noticed cauterization?
It seems like these people didn't notice anything when it came to this poor
I
girl.
didn't notice Abby.
Well, the guy who does the autopsy, he just leaves the bodies out for days, and they start... Well, that's,
On the dining room
yeah,
table.
That is our next episode, so... And then he could burn off the blood really fast. There's no blood on anything, right?
Right.
So anyway, sorry. We know that she was, we said ironing, right? And sewing.
And ironing and ironing.
Oh, boy.
I hate ironing. How about you, Lizzie?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I have nothing else to do.
It passes the time.
You want to do my ironing?
I listen to my audiobooks. And it's just Maggie reading off the messages from the pigeons.
Oh boy. But we know that Bridget came back in after she was done washing the windows. And so, like, she actually is the alibi for Lizzie, right? So as you have here, Penny, Bridget remembered Lizzie Borden speaking to her normally, talking about a sale going on in a shop in town and permitting her to go should she be up to it, because remember they were all sick still. And then she mentioned that Abby had gotten a note about going
How'd she
to
get the note?
Not from a pigeon.
Not for a pigeon. The normal way, people brought it over.
Oh.
Sorry, what didn't
That's
fly
boring.
in? I know, it's boring. Asking her to travel out to the house to visit a sick friend. So Bridget's story does match up with Lizzie's. So she was doing the mundane, boring, puttering, everyday tasks that she told the police. It also explains why Lizzie was dressed so nicely later when the police came, because she was preparing to go to that sale at the shop in town. However, Bridget was still feeling sick from the stomach bug, and she'd been out in the heat washing windows all morning, so she chose to go upstairs in the attic room and lie down for a bit instead of going to the sale. And then barely 15 minutes passes, and then she hears Lily screaming for help because her father is dead. So that 15-minute timeline that's created by Bridget for Lizzie makes it really, really hard for Lizzie to be the murderer. So if you're on team Lizzie did not do it, that 15-minute crunch is very difficult, because she'd have to kill him, get cleaned, and then get all the way back into all of her Victorian dress, which we know is insane.
Right, Lizzie?
That's right.
How do you feel about corsets?
Oh, well, they kind of hide my girlish figure. But, they're fad. I have to be the belle of the ball, so I gotta just wear it. Gotta look all nice when I go to town.
To go to sales.
Yep.
Okay. Go back to puttering.
Lizzie, how do you feel about the Mothman?
Oh, that guy, he's as real as the Jersey Devil.
Sorry. Had to.
Anyway, Penny, save us from ourselves. Because you want to discuss the murder. What did it look like?
The sight inside the parlor was a terrible one, and Lizzie warned Bridget against going inside. Andrew Borden was slumped and lying as he had been during his nap. He was still bleeding, which suggested he had been very recently killed. He had been struck many times in the head with a small-bladed weapon with his eyeball cut clean in half, suggesting he had been asleep while attacked, and Bridget was sent to get a doctor. Dr. Bowen, the same doctor who was told the poison story from Abby, conveyed a bone-chilling observation when he finally got there. He stated that Andrew was lying on the sofa in a natural position, as if he were fast asleep. He was found dressed with his feet resting on the carpet below him. There was no sign of struggle, no furniture disrupted, and no indication that the body was under stress. Dr. Bowen believed the murder weapon was likely an axe, which struck the left side of Andrew's head with cuts near the eyes, nose, and ear. He hypothesized that the murderer attacked Andrew from behind with great speed. What's more, there was blood on the floor and walls, but nothing to fully represent the 10+ strikes to the head. It was clear by the bleeding wounds that the attack was recent.
Blech. Sorry. Like his eye was chopped in half.
The horrific blows to her father's face were acutely personal, obliterating his very identity, and most importantly, his gaze. This level of rage indicates far deeper motives than money or jealousy. It's almost as if the murderer wanted to eradicate his very existence. His head was hit with such force over and over that they drove bone fragments into his skull, crushing bone and brain matter.
So what I find interesting is neighbors heard and saw the commotion, and then the police were finally called. So, people are here going on, and then, of course, Lizzie comes running outside. Their neighbor, Miss Churchill, notices it, so they do get the cops there. When they arrive, though, it wasn't the best homicide detectives of Fall River, because all the good cops were out at an annual function at an amusement park. So whoever planned the murders was like, oh, well, on this one day, I have a good time to get her done, because all the good cops are going to be, out chilling and, winning cotton candy. I don't know. So the people who do come, they're the worst ones. They were left as a skeleton crew. So they did not know how to handle such a murder scene. So I know we're all crime scene junkies, and we were, cringing.
when they show up, everyone else goes, "Oh no!"
But they're like laying like no.
They're at the wrong house initially.
We're
over here.
Oh, it's a 1, not a 7. But so they placed sheets of dead bodies, and they even placed, as you found, I think it was you, Penny, Mr. Borden's shoes back on him to take photographs because it would have been inappropriate for a gentleman to be photographed without shoes on.
Scandalous.
I know. So
Friggin' hate people in this time. I hate movies in this time period. I hate it all. It's just.
So they did not do a good job with the initial investigation or even the interviews. So when the neighbors actually came and helped, they found Abby finally because quite literally, Miss Churchill goes, "Where's Abby?" And everyone goes,
Oh.
They go, "Oh yeah, her."
Right.
Oops. So they find her dead in the guest room. So go ahead, Penny.
She, too, had been struck repeatedly in the head and back with a hatchet or iron.
Yes, or axe. Oh, not an axe.
No, an axe would have been too big.
Yes.
Abby had been hacked by someone who was most likely straddling her body after the initial blow knocked her down. The blood splashed forward, but not too high. One tiny spot stained the bed beside her. The wall in front only had a little spatter up the baseboard. The cops speculated that a person in such a hacking position would likely not have gotten much blood splatter on them, most likely only up to their knees. So she could have hiked her skirt up.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then let it down, cover it up, because no man's going to ask to look at that ankle.
That's right.
She, Abby, not the killer, was also lying in a pool of her own congealed blood. This changed the timeline for the cops. They realized Abby had been murdered first, at least an hour before. She was the first victim. This then raised the question, how did no one know?
Because nobody cared about Abby.
They're all sitting down dinner. Something's missing.
What is it? Oh, boy. But actually, you mentioned like hiking up the skirt. That should be really a smart idea because then she could wipe off her legs and not worry about having to change out of her clothing. So if your team Lizzie did it.
But would you have forethought to do that?
Here's the thing.
It was the one day that cops weren't available. Like, this person had everything planned.
She'd been ironing one too many handkerchiefs.
I'm going to talk about going to the bathroom.
Okay.
So, a wedding dress, you can get those really cool things that you put under your wedding dress.
That tie up, right?
That tie up.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was part of one of the layers that they put in, because you got to think, when they go to the bathroom, they have all those layers.
Gotta look at... I don't want to go look at Victorian dress, too.
I'm sorry.
It's so much extra.
But think about that.
I think they must... I mean, it came from somewhere, right?
And if that's actually...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we didn't think about that.
PJ's writing that down. How did Victorian ladies
in
pee?
my book. Oh, boy. And no one's going to be looking at her drawers, you know?
No.
So
No, of
if
course
her
not.
undies were messy while she had her period. A pea dress? Is that what you wrote down?
How to pee in a dress.
But, like, you think about, you know, again, if she got blood on her pantaloons, they wouldn't have questioned that because she had her period.
Flea bite.
Flea bite, sorry. You're right. I apologize. So, again, Abby's the first victim. Everyone forgot about her. Whatever. Now, what's interesting is something you found about Abby's body, though, Penny. What was it?
She's a big girl.
Oh, yeah.
She
to love.
She was partially under...
Lizzie, did you love Abby?
My daddy did, though. Why do I sound like I'm from South?
We're not sure if Daddy really loved her. Okay, her body was partially under the bed when discovered. This makes one wonder if the murderer had tried to shove the body in order to hide it while trying to kill the other family members. At this point, it's important to notice, Abby was 200 pounds. It would have been very difficult to move her body. This information is important for those who believe Lizzie did not commit the murders because she was a delicate lady. She wouldn't have been able to move 200 pounds of dead weight.
Lizzie, can you pick up 200 pounds?
I can bench more than that.
Not helping your case, Lizzie.
You should see the potato sacks I can pick up.
Well, she could have, kicked at her, shoved her with her feet. I mean, you can...
Take that and that.
Every time she get oof. Smack, smack, smack.
Oh, it's terrible. Poor Abby.
Well, as a side note, according to the National Review, when discussing Abby's marriage to Andrew, marriage with this paragon of Yankee thrift evidently drove Abby to seek compensatory emotional satisfaction in eating. Only 5 feet tall, she ballooned up to more than 200 pounds and seldom left the house except to visit her half-sister, Mrs. Whitehead.
Oof. So she was a big lady.
She's a lady.
Oh, whoa, big lady. Oh, boy.
Yes, so her murder also was very personal, with the head, the face, the main point of attack. As mentioned, she was given 18 whacks. Clearly, overkill.
But, again, could she have picked up Abby? Because 200 pounds is heavy, but 200 pounds of dead weight is way worse, And she would have been kind of, wet, sticky.
Well, I mean, after the whole head thing, a couple pounds lighter.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Slide on the blood.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Well, even if she could yank on the dress a little and shove her a little bit. But we don't know how far under she was because the cops moved everything.
Exactly. And botched investigation. All right. Well, once Andrew and Abby were found, suspicion, of course, fell on Lizzie, as there was no sign of forced entry into the house. And to quote Aaron Rubis, who was a crime scene investigator, the house was triple locked in the front, and the back door was locked. And the only door that could have been unlocked was the side door. Added to this was the fact that she was in the house regularly in the morning, she was angry with her family, and there may have been some poison shopping that we can't substantiate. It didn't help that her stories did not line up. This is because of the family doctor. When he first came to the house, Lizzie was in fact hysterical. Obviously, she saw her dead, bleeding. So he said, how about I give you some drugs to make you feel better? So he hops her up on morphine to calm her down. But then he's like, oh crap, the cops are going to come and they're going to want to ask her questions. So I can't let her fall asleep. So he decided to give her bromo caffeine to keep her awake. So poor Lizzie is drugged out and strung up on caffeine. So it should be noted that she was not in her right mind when she was being interviewed, because she would have been comatose, staring oh, sorry, go ahead, Lizzie. What was it like?
I was having a bad day today. I feel good now, but I'm still sad.
It was a bad day today for you, wasn't it?
Oops, there goes my daddy's eyeball.
No, my favorite marble.
Ew. So she was very drugged up at the time that she was questioned. So people they believe that she did it because she wasn't upset. There was a lack of emotion. But it's because she was so strung out on morphine that she just kind of stood there, I went out to the barn. I like the pears. How are you supposed to react when you're drugged up? But her overall story does match Bridget's, to the T.
Well, how are you supposed to react when you see your father's face?
Lack of, you mean?
Lack thereof.
Yeah. Eyeball hanging.
Yeah.
Proof that's not my dad. Doesn't look like him.
I mean, she could have been going into shock.
Yeah, that's
We all would. I mean,
you got to shut down because your body can't handle it
I
emotionally.
don't know. I'd kind of find it interesting.
Ooh, click, click. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Click, click.
Selfie.
Selfie.
I gotta get this for Instagram.
I'm sorry, Mr. Borden, can you scooch over a little bit? You're clogging the light.
Wait a minute, you gotta put his shoes back on.
God, this guy is just not engaging with me at all.
Oh my gosh.
What a dead horse.
Ooh. Oh boy. But anyway, Penny, back to the murder investigation. Go ahead.
A potential murder weapon, a hatchet, with the handle broken off, was found hiding.
It's found hiding.
I can just imagine the little hatchet hiding in the corner.
Peeking out of a pile of dirty clothes in the corner.
Was I did it, and I'll do it again too.
You can't prove a thing.
It was me, not the stupid iron. The iron's So, anyway, it was found hiding in Borden's basement. Along with this was a bucket of menstrual rags. This was
Yum.
common
I was
just gonna
practice
say.
during the time period, and Lizzie told her doctor that she was menstruating, or, as they said then, she had a flea bite.
That's how they feed the hatchet.
Actually, I think it was the doctor's wife who checked her out first and whispered to husband.
How you doing?
Oh, really?
Days later, the only blood found on Lizzie was a single spot on her underskirt, which she said was from the flea bite. It is important to state at this time, unfortunately, nobody could do DNA analysis on the rags. Lizzie was also not covered in blood, so we have no way of knowing if she did commit the murders. Could she have conceivably murdered Abby and Andrew and done a quick wipe down in the basement, hiding the evidence in a menstrual rag bucket? Maybe.
Yeah. That's all. I mean, I guess, right? It's just a quick turnaround for her dad. Like, that's a quick wipe down because that was way more like
It didn't sound like he turned around at all, actually.
All right, well, I want to talk about this dress, though, okay? Because people, like, discuss this dress that she's burning. So she didn't have any visible blood stains on her clothing, but it did come out in the days afterward that she had burned a dress in her stove after the murder. That was like a couple days later. She and her sister Emma, who was out of town when the killings occurred, maintained she had burned the dress because it was covered in paint stains. And depending on the story you read or listen to, she needed parts of the dress for a new one, but the material was ruined from paint. Her friend Alice Russell, who would be very important in the trials, actually, she maintained that Lizzie did burn parts of a dress, but it was actually paint on the dress. And the paint was green. It wasn't red or gross brown colored and, coagulated. It was green. And Lizzie also had need of mourning clothes, because it was the time period you had to dress properly with certain materials and fabrics and whatever when you were mourning, and she had none, and she just lost both of her parents. So, if you could reuse at least the hooks from a dress, hooray, saves you some money. So, she may have been ripping up the dress just to get those pieces that she needed. We'll never know the truth. But it does add suspicion to Lizzie if you want her to be the murderer. However, given the fact that it was green paint, and there was an eyewitness watching her tear it up, it kind of leans towards her just burning the dress. And as we've already said, she putters around the house and plays with pears. So this is a very boring, mundane thing she would actually be doing. So,
but it's also suspicious because of how frugal they were. Mm-hmm. Why didn't she save it for rags?
Emma, look at this pear. It's a beauty.
Oh my gosh, get out of here.
Lizzie.
And, she could have killed in that dress and then splattered some green paint on top. But the cops did come. They did look through all of her dresses for the initial investigation, and they didn't find anything covered in red. So,
are these the cops that were at the carnival, or were these those?
Well, and the
crazy
days,
cops,
the days
right?
later. We'll get into that next time. But yeah, so maybe she hid it underneath the hatchet that was hiding in the basement. I don't know.
Or wasn't there something about maybe she hid a dress on top of it? And they just moved
through.
But they wouldn't have lifted the skirt to look underneath.
Oh, my.
They're playing with her delicates.
Really?
Don't look at my pantaloons.
I love that word.
Me too. All right. So back to the murder. Okay. Because Penny found this. And I've never read this. I had never heard this. So we know that Lizzie had opportunity. We know that she had motive, but what she didn't have was working arms. So Penny, tell us the story of her arms.
They were quite lovely.
Yeah, she had beautiful arms.
No, thank you.
No, she was a rather burly young lady.
Potato, all the norms.
So we stumbled across this newspaper article that on June 15th, 1892, roughly 7 weeks before the murders, Lizzie was helping with the dishes after church social. The dumbwaiter, which went to the kitchens, was loaded with dishes, but somehow the pulley to lower it slipped and the entire thing came crashing down on Lizzie's arms and wrists. As quoted from the newspaper, her arms were so bruised and lamed that a fortnight afterwards she could not bear the movement of shaking hands. At first, everyone thought Lizzie's arms were broken, but it turned out they were just very badly bruised. Most people believe she would not have been able to actually lift a hatchet and murder two people or even move Abby's body due to this injury. However, it was also noted that she didn't cry out, that she was very stoic.
Calm, yes.
Yes.
It's because you're so beautiful that you didn't break your arms. You're just so thick. All that bear wrestling has helped you, Lizzie.
That's right.
And it took a couple of strong men to lift it off of her.
Yeah, that's crazy too.
So none of this evidence conclusively proves or disproves Lizzie's innocence. This is why the murder has been at the front, not the back, or the side.
Or the broken skull beaten part.
Of American consciousness for well over 100 years.
And that is where we will end part 2 of this series. Yes, it's a 3-parter, so listen in next week to hear the final episode of the series. We will discuss the trial in depth, as well as some of the investigation before the trial. We'll look into Emma and Lizzie's later lives, too, which might add more to the story. So come back next week for our conclusion on Lizzie Borden. Thank you, ladies, for being here once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And congratulations in future to the person who wins the giveaway this evening.
Yep.
Which we're going to be doing
1 hour.
soon. Yep, 1 hour. Well, by the time people are here, it'll be a day later. But so thank you, everyone, for listening to the Wellhouse Exorcism. Find us on Instagram as Wellhouse Exorcism, on Twitter X as Wellhouse_Exorc, or on Facebook under Games Overboard, because we are a subsidiary. Please feel free to hop on our website as well, which is gamesoverboard.com. And please email us because we want to hear from you. And as always, think spooky thoughts. She knew that she would weep again when she saw the kind, tender hands folded in death, the face that had never looked save with love upon her, fixed and gray and dead. But she saw beyond that bitter moment a long procession of years to come that would belong to her absolutely, and she opened and spread her arms out to them in welcome. The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin.